What is going on, everybody? It's JetsCentral coming back with another video, and yesterday the New York Jets trimmed down their roster to 53 men, right? Making it the official final roster right before this upcoming season starts up. We got the Detroit Lions on Monday, first NFL regular season game, and it feels so good to finally say that because, I mean, realistically, you guys, everybody out there, we've been waiting for this day for a long time, and the regular season is finally here. So without further ado, let's talk about this 53-man roster. I got the list right here, brought to you by New York Post. So quick shout out to them. They wrote an article about everybody that made the final roster. Let's get right into it. So first up, we got the quarterback position. It's Sam Darnold and Josh McCown. Overall, it's a pretty promising unit. Sam Darnold, everybody knows his story. Third overall pick out of USC. Had a pretty solid preseason. Looks like the guy to build around for the future. Granted, he hasn't taken a single snap yet for the New York Jets. A meaningful snap yet. But everything looks to be going in his favor. You know, the coaches like him. The players like him. He was named the starter. He beat out Teddy Bridgewater. So everything is good to go right there. And, of course, we have Josh McCown. Everyone loves him. Fans, coaches, the players. Great mentor for Sam Darnold to learn from. He's just a great dude. So overall, I like the quarterback unit, which feels weird because I haven't said that in a long time regarding the New York Jets, and you guys haven't probably thought the same way either. So next up, moving on to the running back position, we have Bilal Powell, Isaiah Crowell, Elijah McGuire, and Trenton Cannon. Now, this was pretty interesting when I saw that Trenton Cannon made the final roster because he beat out guys like Thomas Rawls, Charkandrick West. And I did not necessarily think Trenton Cannon had the best preseason. He had some mistakes on offense. He had some mistakes on special teams. He had a couple fumbles. And considering that he was a late-round prospect and that he had some mistakes in the preseason games, it tells me one thing, that this guy must dominate in practice because the coaches, why would they keep a guy, a late-round draft pick who's had a lot of issues in the preseason? Okay, well, as far as game action goes. So the coaches see something in this dude, whether it's his speed or they just see his potential, they just fell in love with his tape, something because the coaches know that this guy's going to make an impact this year because there's a reason why he beat out Thomas Rawls, a guy who has done some nice things at the NFL level. Of course, we have newcomer Isaiah Crowell, one of the bigger free agents that the Jets signed, who was actually one of my favorite signings of the Jets this past offseason. He's a nice running back. He actually looks a little bit slimmer than he did with Cleveland. He has a nice combination of power and speed, which I really, really like. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Chris Ivory when he was a New York Jet. So overall, I'm really liking this running back position. We don't have a top 5 running back, a top 10 running back, but it's deep. If Bilal Powell were to go down, if Crowell were to go down, I'm really confident in, the other guys to step up and make an impact. So moving on, we have one fullback, Lawrence Thomas, a guy that the New York Jets coaching staff really, really likes. He actually made the transition from, I believe it was a defensive tackle to fullback. So, another versatile guy that we have on our team. Also helps out on special teams. So next we have wide receiver. We have Robbie Anderson, Jermaine Kearse, Quincy Enunwa, Terrell Pryor, Sharon Peake, and Andre Roberts. Okay, so those last two guys are obviously new to the New York Jets, Sharon Peake and Andre Roberts. And Peake was a late-round pick, I believe, a few seasons ago out of Clemson by the Jets. And he made the team his first year, but then last year I actually don't remember him at all making the team. And a few names that aren't on this list. Chad Hansen, former 4th-round pick out of Cal, and Ardarius Stewart, former 3rd-round pick out of Alabama. So, are the football gods trying to tell me something? I'll fix it later. Hopefully it doesn't slam the back of my head. But Ardarius Stewart and Chad Hansen aren't on this team. That, you take a look at Mike McCagnon, and you have to say to yourself, that's a 3rd-round pick gone. That's a 4th-round pick gone. That's kind of shaky. But on the bright side, Terrell Pryor is a guy who has a pretty high upside. He looks, as far as looking back at 2016 when he had that dominant season, over 1,000 yards for the Cleveland Browns without that many, he didn't have a dominant quarterback at that time. If he could perform like that this year with the New York Jets, the Jets got themselves a total steal here. Sorry, I'm a little distracted by this thing. So overall, the wide receiver position, I like it. I'm not in love with it, but I would expect Robbie Anderson to kind of build upon last year. I really hope that him and Darnold kind of get that chemistry because they didn't really have chemistry in the preseason. So I really want to see them kind of mesh well together. And then for Jermaine Kearse, he's not actually going to be playing week 1. He's out with an injury. So moving on to tight end, Eric Tomlinson, Jordan Leggett, Chris Herndon, and Neil Sterling. The guy that stands out to me in this list is Neil Sterling. This is a guy who I thought did the most out of this whole unit as far as the tight end position goes. Really more so focusing on the receiving part of the tight end position, not so much the blocking. I feel like Tomlinson out of this group is the best blocking tight end, but Neil Sterling I think should be the starting tight end for the Jets because overall, top to bottom, I thought he played the best out of all of the tight ends on the preseason roster for the Jets. So moving on, offensive line: Spencer Long, center; Brian Winters, guard; James Carpenter, guard; Kelvin Beachum, left tackle; Brandon Shell, right tackle; Jonathan Harrison, Dakota Dozier, Ben Braden, Brent Qualve. This is an area of the New York Jets, a unit that has taken a lot of criticism over the past few weeks, and rightfully so. We haven't been able to protect the quarterbacks in the preseason, whether it's been Teddy, Josh, or Sam. I mean, granted, Josh only got that one try, but he still was being rushed. And then all of last season, Josh McCown was running for his life, okay, back there. The offensive line play for the New York Jets was not that good. It was just, it wasn't even up to par to the average offensive line that you'd see around the league. So I need to see improvement of this offensive line. Yeah, we did add Spencer Long, and I really like Brandon Shell. I think he's a good developmental player who I think will keep on growing, and I like him at that right tackle spot because he, I know the offensive line takes a lot of slack by the fans, the media, and whatnot, but the offensive line is made up of 5 individuals, and I felt like out of the 5, Brandon Shell the best preseason, so I really like Shell. He was a former 4-year starter at South Carolina, the Gamecocks. So moving on to the defensive side of the football, we have the defensive line. We have Steve McClendon, Leonard Williams, Nathan Shepard, Mike Pennell, Henry Anderson, and this last name I know I'm going to screw it up, but he was a late round pick out of UConn. I think it's Foloruso Fatakusui. I'm not sure if anybody actually knows the real pronunciation. I can't even say this word right either. Pronunciation. Let me know down below in the comment section. But anyway, the defensive line, I think it's a solid unit. Leonard Williams is a really good player, still young. He's actually turning into a pretty good vocal leader this year as well. Nathan Shepard, really high upside, coming from Canada, who was our 3rd round choice this year out of Fort Hays State. Really excited to see what he can bring to the table. And then Steve McClendon is a proven run-stopping defensive, that traditional nose guard, traditional defensive tackle in the 3-4 system. I really like McClendon. He's been on very successful Pittsburgh Steelers teams in the past, so he knows what a winning team kind of feels like. And overall, this defensive line, we don't have that edge rusher. We don't have that really good pass rushing player or a player with that skill set. So that's going to be a concern this year. Hell, that's why we're being rumored to trade for Khalil Mack and now Dante Fowler Jr. So we need to get better at this defensive line position. So next up, outside linebacker. This is actually really weird. We only have 3 outside linebackers on the roster: Jordan Jenkins, Josh Martin, and Brandon Copeland. Okay, so I would assume that the Jets, going into this, would have more than 3 outside linebackers, but for whatever reason, we only have 3. And judging off this list and by the names on the how many names are on this list, this is a position of need. I kind of harp back on to what I was saying. Dante Fowler, he's a versatile player. He could play that outside linebacker role, and then that's why we made a huge push for Khalil Mack, because this position we need help on desperately. We got rid of Lorenzo Malden. We got rid of Dylan Donahue. This is definitely going to be a position that we need to work on, whether before this season starts, maybe at the trade deadline, getting a guy like DFJ, or off-season, because there are going to be some pretty good outside linebackers available with, I know Jadeveon Clowney's contract's going to be running up along with Ziggy Ansah, and Fowler Jr. for that matter as well. So moving, and Anthony Barr, he's another guy to keep an eye on if you're the New York Jets. So inside linebacker, Darren Lee, Avery Williamson, and Neville Hewitt. Really good core. I really like this unit for the Jets. Darren Lee, former first-round pick. Everybody knows him. Has a pretty high upside, and I would still think that Lee has a lot. He still has a lot of potential that he hasn't reached yet. He hasn't been playing inside linebacker that long in his lifetime. I think he's going into either year 5 or year 6 of just playing the position of inside linebacker, and he's doing it at the highest level in the National Football League. So with each and every year, I would expect Lee to get a little bit better. Avery Williamson, pretty promising talent coming from Tennessee, signed him to a really financially reasonable deal, which I really like, and he's actually showing a lot of leadership in camp as well, kind of taking Darren Lee, and you can tell they're becoming really good buds, so that's pretty awesome. And then Neville Hewitt, he's a guy that the New York Jets picked up from the Miami Dolphins. He was a former undrafted free agent from the Marshall Thundering Herd, and I remember watching him at Marshall, and he was an absolute tackle machine, and I was shocked that he went undrafted. I would have assume that he probably would have went round 6, round 7. But Neville Hewitt, I was totally impressed with what he did with Miami because he made the team in Miami, contributed on defense and on special teams, and the Dolphins let him go. And the New York Jets picked him up, and I was, saying to myself, like, cool, he's a pretty durable player. He did a lot in college, a lot of production as far as being an undrafted guy, and he signs with the New York Jets and had a pretty solid preseason. So I'm like, yeah, this guy can make the team. Racked up a lot of tackles, so I'm happy that Hewitt's in the building. So next up, we got cornerback Trumaine Johnson, Morris Claiborne, Buster Skrine, Darryl Roberts, Perry Nickerson, Justin Burris, and then Derek Jones. So the one guy that's kind of left off this list is Jeremy Clark, the former 6th-rounder out of Michigan. Overall, I like this cornerback unit. I think cornerback along with safety is those are probably the top 2 units of this team right now. A lot of athleticism, a lot of youth, a lot of energy, a lot of leadership from these two units by the New York Jets. Trumaine Johnson kind of being the prize jewel of the Jets offseason, bringing him in on a huge contract. So really liking that. Morris Claiborne's going to be coming in, probably just going to occupy the left cornerback role. Buster Skrine, I like him in the slot. Darryl Roberts, another Thundering Herd alum, really liked him. Former New England Patriot, did some pretty good things. He gets burned from time to time, but I still like Darryl Roberts as a player. Really has a really high defensive IQ, which I like. Nickerson, former 6th-round pick of this last draft out of Tulane, blazing fast 40-yard dash. Justin Burris, I believe he was a 4th-round pick out of NC State last year, or even 2 years ago for that matter. Anyway, he's more fit to be a zone cornerback in my opinion, but this low in the depth chart, it's okay. And then Derek Jones, former 7th-rounder out of Ole Miss. I really like Derek Jones. He's another guy who is pretty versatile. He played a little bit of wide receiver at Ole Miss as well, and it's good to see he made the team. So moving on, safety, our last position on this list. So safety, we have Jamal Adams, Marcus May, J.J. Wilcox, Doug Middleton, and Terrence Brooks. This unit for the New York Jets is an absolute home run. This unit is great. We have youth, we have athleticism, we have a little bit of veteran leadership with Wilcox and Terrence Brooks. I like that a lot. We have hard hitters, we have ball hawks on this unit. Really, really like it. And another cool thing that you could bring up with this safety group is that this is our best unit on the team, and yet we don't have one big contract of this on this whole safety unit. So really like it, and gonna be exciting stuff. Okay, so that's the 53-man roster, and yeah, I didn't really talk a little bit about the special teams. So right now, our punters Lachlan Edwards, our long snappers Thomas Hennessy, and our kicker right now it's in a little bit of a weird spot. Right now, it's currently Jason Myers, but I know the Jets are working out Dan Bailey, which could be a huge get if you're the Jets, because Dan Bailey is actually one of the best kickers in the National Football League. I have no idea why Dallas will release this guy. Okay, he is an absolute beast, and the Jets need to sign this guy if they can, if he's healthy. So those are the guys, and overall, I'm liking this 53-man unit. We need some help on the offensive line. We need some help at the outside linebacker position. And overall, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Thanks for sticking around, if you guys did stick around, going on, 15 minutes here. And again, let me know, because I really want to hear your guys' thoughts on this. So thanks so much for watching, and as always, go Jets.